Hi everyone, this is Disha Dioxide and you are watching CO Secrets, what made them successful and how we can make it. Today I will be having a conversation with Dr. Vishwanath Lingappa, who is the CEO of Prosetta Bioconformatics USA. We will be hearing about his journey and his experiences. Were you a brilliant student or were you a backbencher? And when did the turning point towards your success happen, sir?
I was in between. I was very good at some things and very bad at others.
Other things.
The transition, there were several transitions, I would say, because the first transition was being sort of self-aware of what the opportunities might be and why I should care about that. That happened when I was younger. But then I've also been the beneficiary of enormous luck.
Oh.
Okay, and I think most people that are successful grotesquely underestimate how lucky they were. But for the grace of God, let's say, they would have failed for 100 reasons. So I was incredibly fortunate to get into a college that has a reputation as a pressure cooker. Okay.
Oh, really? Which one is that?
Swarthmore College,
okay.
Outside of Philadelphia. And it was the most intense intellectual experience of my life. Never subsequently. Medical school was a joke compared to undergraduate. I found I worked as hard as I could and it wasn't good enough. And that's where I learned that the secret to success is to work harder than anybody else. And if you work harder than anybody else, you'll be able to exceed people that are far smarter than you. And there were people around me that, I just thought I wasn't in their category, but I was willing to work day and night to achieve my goals. And so that has been something that has stayed with me. But again, together with incredible good luck. Hard work and good luck is probably all one needs, because we're all potentially smart, unless someone has a specific defect. They are more or less as smart as everybody else. And the question is, do they realize it? Are they motivated? What do they aspire for? And if you execute on that and keep your eyes open for luck, because I suspect we all get
at
luck.
Some point.
Some of us seize it by luck or whatever, and others, it passes by.
Then would you say that smart work is worse than hard work in your opinion? Because you said there were smart people around you, but you worked hard.
Yeah, well, I mean, there were smarter people than me around me, but I was prepared to work literally day and night if that's what it took to match them. And if you match them consistently, eventually you exceed them, because they're not prepared to work that hard.
Right. That's the difference.
And that's the difference. And again, it's not like one is trying to exceed or compete with someone so much as it is to fully master the opportunities that have been given you. You've got to work hard. And the interesting thing is, the harder you work, the more it's enjoyable. And that was the next thing I learned. When I went to medical school, where I spent most of my time in the lab, very little actually taking the medical stuff seriously. And suddenly, again, to talk about incredible luck, even though I was a very mediocre medical student, because I was spending all of my time in the research lab, I somehow ended up with one of the top internship programs in the country.
Wow.
Well, that's great. Let's call that luck, okay? But suddenly there I am in this top program, and I'm surrounded by people who are in that program because they are the best. And now, when I say I wasn't the best, I skipped a lot of steps. So I showed up as an intern on the University of California, San Francisco Medical Ward with only 6 weeks of third-year medicine why? Because they allowed me to skip the 4th year of medical school because my research had gone well. So I showed up not knowing anything. Wow. And I'm surrounded by these other doctors who really were the top of their classes, right? But I learned that if you work hard, if you are absolutely focused on assimilating as much as you can, you'll catch up to them quickly. In 3 months, I was just as good as any of them. And in 6 months, I was better than most of them. Oh. And because of that, got my faculty position there. But in other words, don't worry about, everybody's ahead of me or smarter than me or has had better, whatever than me. Just work hard. Be focused. Have your focus on what your goal is, and let the rest attend to itself.
How can an average student become a CEO according to you, sir?
Well, the first thing I would question is being a CEO as your goal. I don't think that's a productive goal, right? Because a CEO is just a title, right? It's not, if you ask, what does it mean? Being, let's say, a leader, you can enumerate the qualities that you would say you would want to see in a CEO, and you could say, I want to have those qualities. I would argue that the goal should be to be highly skilled at something specific, right? And be creative in that, starting in that venue that you've chosen as your career path. For me, you could say I wanted to become a scientist, or I wanted to become a doctor. I wanted to become a teacher. Those would sort of be 3 career paths that I followed. That's the goal, because that is those are each productive paths where you say, if I'm a good teacher, if I'm a good a scientist, if I'm a good doctor, I can be proud of what I've done. And if in the course of doing that over a career, you garner the expertise to become a CEO, that's wonderful. But that isn't the goal in itself, I would argue, to be a CEO, because that's just a title. I would say be the best at some particular expertise. Would be a better way to phrase it.
Wonderful. What would you say is the best advice someone gave you, sir?
The best advice that someone gave me was George Palade, the Nobel laureate, who was on my thesis committee, said to me at my PhD award ceremony, he pulled me aside and he said, you have tasted success in science, and that is going to be something that's going to drive you for the rest of your life, because the excitement and the appeal of applying your creativity and seeing that I discovered this, I figured this out, is going to make you a problem solver for the rest of your life. And what he said to me was, keep doing that. Always ask yourself, what is the next problem I can solve? And what I found is it played out in I'm not interested in solving a problem that someone else is going to solve 3 months later or 6 months later without me. I want to solve the problems that if I don't solve them, no one's going to solve them for the next 5 years or 10 years or, till the next millennium. That is the challenge that I think the advice I received from Dr. Palade that has always stayed with me.
Wonderful. If a Nobel laureate has said that, then it definitely holds.
It certainly influenced me. I suppose that, along with the exhortation from my thesis advisor, who subsequently won the Nobel Prize, also Günter Blobel, who said to me, Vishu, you are one. Those who are opposing you are many. If you do not work day and night, they will crush you like a cockroach. That was a harsh thing to say, but in fact, he was right. What it does is it focuses you, motivates you to achieve your goal. And the challenge, I would argue, is how to do that without becoming a jerk. Right? You could say, I stepped on everybody in my way and I've succeeded. You're a jerk. No, how can you have that focus on success and still be a nice person, friendly, collaborative? And in my career, I've found that being generous to others pays dividends like you wouldn't believe. And I can think of examples where, there was a project where I did most of the work. But I said, this was a project that couldn't have been done if my colleague in the lab hadn't started it off. And so, to his surprise, I invited him as a co-author on that paper, rather than saying, no, I did all the work, what you did was of no value. No, you tried. You contributed in a small way, but one that I appreciate. And for the rest of his life, he, was very nice to me because I had shown kindness and respect. And I think that's something that, the question is, how do you balance being focused on a goal? I want to achieve this goal, and also be generous and kind and supportive of others. I think there is not an incompatibility, but there's a trap that one is tempted to follow one to the exclusion of the other.
What would you tell your younger self, sir, if you had a chance?
I would say have confidence in yourself. One thing I noticed when I was a young person, and young people that I see today, is, and interestingly, often more so with women than men, is a lack of self-confidence. That is, a greater amount of self-doubt. And that's not a bad thing, because when you have self-doubt, you double-check, triple-check your work, which is how you learn. You catch mistakes, you prevent errors. But at the end of the day, having confidence in yourself, which will grow as you get more and more experience. So I would say to myself, you're on the path you need to be on. Don't question it. Execute it.
What is the mistake you see students making today that will affect their careers in the future?
Very good question. I would say students today perhaps are too focused on the immediate rather than the longer term. And that's where, if you set yourself a goal, I want to become an expert practitioner of a skill, a trade, a profession, that can't be done overnight. That requires hard work for years. And one should do that out of love of that, profession or trade or skill, and because it's a way to honor those who have made this possible, and contribute to the society.